loans to the countries they know that they will never be able to pay back, and that's why they are making them dependent because of the debt. But it's not America which is champion of that. I think China would be. For instance, China is really doing it very often when they are finding some economy. The first condition is that they should proclaim that China is the only, the People's Republic of China is the only Chinese state. That's why they had to reject any contacts, official contacts, of course, with Taiwan. And when they do that, the Chinese are investing, and it's very fine. But they are usually the locals are usually from Peru, for instance, because it is a very interesting case of Peru or Zambia. But let's take Peru. Peru was interested in giving some Chinese involvement in their economic policy. They wanted Chinese companies there to investments and so on. So but they couldn't afford to make it interesting for the Chinese. So the Chinese gave them a loan, and this is how that started. And usually it comes also from the local to the forms of local dependence. That, for instance, the family in Peru in some secluded area or village, they want to have a funeral, and of their, for instance, uncle that just passed, and they just find out that this land is belonging to the Chinese company, and they have to ask permission of the Chinese owner for this undertaking. So this is, I think, the Chinese are the champion of making others economically dependent, not the USA. But of course, this stereotype is partly true. The very expensive medical care, it comes not from the fact that American medicine is not socialized, that it's not depending on the state, that it's not state regulated, but it's coming from the fact that American medical domain is regulated by the rules of another monopolist, which is even more ruthless than some of the state-owned ministries of health in Europe are, or in Latin America. The American Medical Association, it's an organization that controls most of the medical care in America, and they make it interesting for them and not for the clients or / patients. So they, for instance, they create a situation in which when you have a medical problem, you are required to undertake as many to be subjected to very many really also unnecessary medical examinations, and this is what making the treatment very, very costly. But when we imagine America as a country which has no social security, we are very much mistaken. This also, of course, there's not much of the state-run security, social security things, but you can buy your social security from your company, from your church, from your organizations, even from the hobby groups and so on. It's possible in America. It's just deregulated, but the huge majority of Americans are of course insured when it comes to health and so on. Low IQ. Americans are perceived as stupid, but international tests of IQ, which are reliable, they usually tend to show that the Far East Asians are usually the smartest, because what the IQ tests really demonstrate is mostly the ability to go through an IQ test. So you have to have this kind of intelligence that is needed to be confronted with the IQ test. And the Far East Asians, they are usually very good at it because they are required to have this test-like intelligence by their culture, for instance, by the very complicated forms of their alphabets.